Hey everybody, this is Pierre Quinn, and you're listening to episode number 58 of the Leading While Green podcast, where my mission is to help you live, learn, and lead with confidence. On this episode of the podcast, my guest is the executive director for the Maryland Mentor Program, Sadiq Ali. We talk about his professional journey, his beginnings in retail, and why it's so important for us to mentor the next generation. So, listen up. I just want to thank you again for your support of the Leading While Green podcast. Man, this thing is growing and growing and growing. For all of you who leave reviews, for all of you who share this on social media, for all of you who are part of this journey, thank you so much. Now, hopefully you're on my leaders list. That's where you get the updates on all the things that I have going on, resources for leaders, especially information about my upcoming leadership intensive. I want you to have all that information, but to get it, you need to sign up for my leaders list. So to do that, hop over to my website, prcquinn.com, and click on join my leaders list. Click on that tab. Enter your email and we'll get you signed up. Okay. Before we jump in, I wanted to let you know about my Leading While Green Leadership Intensive. I'm releasing that course really soon. And I want you to have the information about it before everybody else does. So make sure you hop on that leaders list and stay connected. I hope you're following me on social as well, on Instagram, Pierre Quinn, on Twitter, Pierre Quinn, on LinkedIn, Pierre Quinn, and on Facebook, Mr. Pierre Quinn. Okay, let's jump into our conversation with the executive director for Maryland Mentor, Sadiq Ali. This episode of the podcast, I am excited about our guest, Sadiq Ali. Sir, thanks for joining us.
Peace and blessings.
So you got a lot going on in your world. I mean, you're a two-time best-selling author, you're a speaker, you're a professor, education consultant, leadership trainer. You're the director of the Maryland Mentor Program. You started the Millionaire Manners Academy and the Young Gentlemen's Institute. Man, a lot, bro. How do you keep it all together?
Man, at the core of it all, bro, is service. It's service to people. It's service to leaders. It's service to families. And ultimately, it's all for the upliftment of our young people, man. So in that regards, it makes it very, very simple. I know what to say no to if it doesn't align with my brand and my mission, and I know what to say yes to.
So let's back up, man. I know a couple of details about you that our listeners don't. Kind of give us your start down this whole leadership thing. I mean, you got some work in the retail industry, and now you travel. Now you serve a nonprofit. Take us back a few years to how you kind of begin to grow into your calling.
Nah, no doubt. So grew up in the DC area. Was fortunate enough to grow up with both my parents around. They split up when I was a youngin', when I was a young tadpole, but had, again, just the fortunate opportunity to grow up with my dad. And my dad was an exemplary leader, devoted to the community, was an entrepreneur. And it was really largely from my dad, man, that I first got bit by the service bug in the form of customer service and community service. So growing up with my dad in bookstores and different festivals, we used to travel around, and again, just learn the art of being able to be with the people and serve people and sell. Right? There was a book that was written called what? To sell is human, or to be human is to sell. Right? And that's at part of the core of who we are. Right? We're always selling ideas, et cetera, man. But had the opportunity to go to high school, play ball. And then I ended up at Morgan State University in Baltimore on an academic scholarship where, got involved in a bunch of stuff on campus, had some internship opportunities, and ultimately decided that, when I left Morgan State with my business degree, man, that I wanted to do something where, again, I was going to be able to have an impact, where I was going to be able to lead people, and again, work with people in service, man. So I ultimately ended up from Morgan State University going into work for Target. And I spent the next almost 10 years with Target, man, in a variety of positions, and ultimately left Target stores, man, as a store team leader, aka a general manager, with a team of 300 folks. Got the opportunity there to serve as community captain. So served and had the opportunity to lead a bunch of community service projects. And it was really there at Target, man, that again, my leadership was honed, and especially my love and really passion for working with and developing young people was, again, really, really grown and stoked there, man, because as we know, the on-ramp for employment in our country is primarily via two routes. One is retail, one is fast food. And in my Target store, the majority of my staff was under 25. So, while they're working with my young people, I was part big brother, part dad, part uncle, part psychologist, part mentor. But I was also a store manager, and I had to mind the bottom line, man. So that's a little bit about where it came from, and from there, just kind of continued to grow.
Yeah, I've had a couple of years at Target myself, so I know a little bit about the retail environment. Now, one of the things that you notice about Target when you go into a Target store is this intentionality as it relates to color, as it relates to design, and how did that experience kind of impact you today? Especially when you talk about being a mentor, when you talk about being a counselor, a coach, a big brother. Sometimes when you're dealing, even in the African-American context, as it relates to presentation and intentionality, even the kids that would come in to get applications, how did that environment of intentionality to detail at Target kind of help lay a foundation for you and help you in what you do today?
No, great question, bro. So, also while they're at Target is where, really the inspiration and impetus grew for me to create Millionaire Manners. I always tell this story, like I remember it like it was yesterday, to your point, where, in my role as store team leader, it wasn't necessarily a requirement because I had teams, lots of teams to be able to handle different things. But I always enjoyed doing interviews for team members, right? Those are the entry level positions, young people coming in. Not all young people were at the store though, but those are the folks coming in making minimum wage, $8, $9, $10 an hour. And, I always enjoyed going through those interviews because, that for me, that was the front line. That's where the rubber meets the road. So if I wasn't aware at all times of who the new team members were coming in the door, then that's when me as a store team leader, I'd lose touch and then ultimately lose control of my building. But I remember like it was yesterday, there was this particular young man. He came in and didn't look particularly good, as you just noted around the presentation piece. Shirt was a little wrinkled. But as I sat with him, I discovered through the interview questions and our process and me probing a bit that this guy was a diamond in the rough, this young guy. And what really struck me is that, again, I had to do an above average amount of probing, but that's something that I enjoy doing. And again, to your point about intentionality, that was something I was intentional about as making sure that I was giving as much opportunity to young men that looked like me as possible. I gave an equal opportunity to everybody, but I especially wanted to see those young men that looked like me succeed. So I would go above and beyond absolutely in those instances. But I remember after I made the decision, to hire this young guy, offer him a conditional job with us, that I just remember thinking to myself, like, damn, if there wasn't a Sadiq or one of my other team members that got it, one of my other managers that got it, sitting across from this young guy, he would have been tossed out like so many others, man. So that's, again, right there is where Millionaire Manners was born, around me leaving behind a guide, because in my mind, I'm like, man, I can't mentor 300 young guys in the store. I can't mentor 10,000 young men, right? Yeah. But if I write a book, if I leave something behind, that could potentially be part of my legacy of leaving behind some of these breadcrumbs of success. Like you said, watch how you come in, watch what you wear, watch how you speak, watch how you present yourself, right? Every mic. I just listened to NPR this morning, not to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but I just listened to NPR this morning, and then we're talking about how they just did a news story, how essentially we're in the wild, wild west of, and we already knew this, but right now we're in the wild, wild west as it pertains to privacy. Essentially, the news story said that you should just assume, Pierre, at all times you're being recorded. We saw that with Omarosa leaving the White House, and she basically already pulled the lid off the thing and said, understand that everyone in the White House records everyone.
Mm.
And that just blew my mind. And this news story reinforced it, that pretty much in these days and times, because of all of the different things that we sign, the conditional and terms of agreements, we pretty much all agreed to being recorded at all times. So it's like, if the newscaster, the journalist basically said that if you don't assume you're being recorded at all times, you're extremely naive.
Yeah.
So, just to close the loop on it, bro, that's really where my mindset is how can we empower more of our young people around that intentionality that you spoke to, and really push them and encourage them to do more.
So there's this kind of leadership perspective that says being a great leader doesn't necessarily mean being the most talented, but it does mean an ability to recognize good talent. And there's some connection to that with good mentoring as well. What does it take to be able to look at a person, somebody applying for a job, somebody in a program, somebody when you travel and speak? What does it take to be able to look at them authentically and to put yourself in a position to say, give them a chance or be intentional, or to get a resource their way where maybe somebody else would kind of look them by when they have so much potential inside of them?
That's another great one, bro. You done this before, Pierre? So, there's a couple key factors, man. Like, for me, I'm definitely a proponent of and a disciple of 7 Habits of Highly Effective Folks. There's so many jewels in there. One of my favorite habits of highly effective people is being proactive. Mm-hmm. Personally, I'm always looking for folks that are being proactive. I'm always looking for folks that are leading the way, the folks that you have to say, "Oh, slow down, soldier," not the ones that you have to say, "Hey, speed up." Like, go and do something, go and take action, even if it's the wrong action, make a decision, even if it's the wrong decision, go and do something. So I'm always looking for folks in every walk of life that are proactive. I think the other piece that I'm always looking for are, folks that listen, right? Because it's so easy, which is another habit, right? Like, first seek to understand, then be understood. And the only way that we can understand is by being great listeners. I always try to listen also closely to the types of questions that people ask. This is probably a newer phenomenon for me personally, because again, there's so many eloquent, just super articulate folks walking around, and they'll tell you what you want to hear, Pierre. But when you listen to the questions that people ask, and again, just observe how people listen, and then again, just sort of just integrate that information and synthesize that info. That means a lot to me. And I would say, lastly, I'm always looking for folks that are committed to service, especially customer service. This is, I've started a couple of books that I haven't finished in addition to the ones that I have, right? So as once you get that bug, you can start 5 or 10 different projects at once. But, I'm committed to finishing this book within the next, I will say, 24 months, because it's been on my mind for a bit. But, there's this concept that I've been working on for a bit, Pierre, and it has to do with the notion that everybody that you come across is your customer in some regard, right? Not just in a traditional sense. Like, we only usually think of customers as it pertains to shopkeepers or entrepreneurs, like, oh, those are my customers or clients. But Pierre, you know who your number one customer is? It's your wife, bro. It's your wife. That is your number one customer. And if you don't satisfy that customer, that is your wife, guess what she does, Pierre? She go and shop someplace else. Just with my wife, right? My second group of customers are my children. If I don't service my customers that are my children, guess what they do? They go and shop somewhere else.
Somebody else.
In the form of allowing someone else to be more influential in their lives than I am. So,
wow, that's good.
So I'm super heavy, man, as it pertains to customer orientation. Like, I feel like we've lost a lot of that in our e-commerce economy and where we are. But I'm really big on customer service, bro. And if you could boil down anything like a secret to success, man, serve the people.
No, this is good. Okay, so I want to push back a little bit on this idea, or maybe just come from a different angle. As it relates to environment, you talked about growing up with your dad, entrepreneurship, books, bookstores. That's similar to my experience as well, growing up with an entrepreneur who always had books around. But
Yeah,
what
I
about,
see the collection part of it in the background.
man, it's like, listen, I'm banned, right? Like, my wife was like, no, we can't do this anymore. I got books on all sides, but it's environment, right? So what about the person that says, the young man that says, okay, Mr. Sadiq, it's easy for you. You grew up in that environment. Your dad was an entrepreneur. Your dad always read. The men in your life set some parameters on how you're supposed to treat women and treat yourself. But I didn't have that. I didn't have that environment. I was just trying to survive. So, and this is the way that I fashioned to make it in life. So why should I have to switch that up if I've been surviving up to this point?
Sure, sure. No, man, there's this old saying that culture is stronger than willpower.
Hmm.
And I believe that wholeheartedly, right? So as it pertains to, we'll call ourselves, right, the lucky ones that grew up in that environment that was somewhat ready-made for success, right? I'll give you those folks that are still attracted to other things, right? You can come from an environment that's awesome,
Mm-hmm.
but we have tons of examples of folks that come from well-to-do situations, or again from the outside look like really, really great environments, but they end up extracting themselves and putting themselves in a different environment that then yields some different results, man. So I'm all about again just always delving into culture as it pertains to us creating the culture that we want to see. So for me, case in point, if you take this is why young people join gangs.
Okay.
What I know from the youth development field, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is why young people join gangs. This is why young people join, fraternities and sororities, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Folks want to feel a part of something. And, it's our job as parents, it's our jobs as leaders, as mentors, to create those cultures, those environments where our folks don't feel like they need anything else externally. See, because when we have internal threats, it lets the external threats come in that much easier. But when there's no internal threats, you'll be impermeable to all of the external threats. And kind of that's what we see these days, man. In my humble opinion, is that a lot of times in our families, we have a lot of internal threats. We have a lot of young parents, right? Young parents trying to stay young. So as a result, they're not paying as close a keen eye and as close of that keen attention to their youngins as possible. So then that young person, they go and fill that gap externally. And then what happens? As soon as you crack that door open, now the gang becomes more influential. Now the boyfriend or the girlfriend becomes more influential. Now all of these less than desirable factors and influences become more influential, man. So, we have to, in my opinion, just think really, really carefully about how we're crafting the environments and the cultures that our young people are a part of. Because if not, then YouTube is raising them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hip hop is raising them. And look, and I'm a hip hop head, but you don't have guides and translators for the hip hop, and hip hop just swallows them up. Because there's a continuum of hip hop, as you know, Pierre. And a lot of it ain't great.
But let's kind of dive into that just for a little bit. You mentioned this idea of guides and translators, not just for hip hop. I think it extends to wider culture. Why is that so important? We're trying to wade out. Everybody wants to be relevant, or everybody wants to be popular, or everybody wants to be subscribed to or viral. But a lot of times we get out there and the wider popular culture gets swallowed whole. But so what's the impact or the necessity of having those guides, those sages, those mentors in these spaces so we don't lose ourselves?
Yeah, bro. I mean, again, what's the old saying, right? He who has himself as a counselor has a fool for a client.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one person knows everything.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's an old African proverb, right? That none of us is as smart as all of us.
Yeah.
So my thing is like, whatever it is that we're after in this life, someone has done something similar in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So for me, it's really all about what is the person after? Like, what is a person after? If you're after this thing, then again, you go and spend time with folks that are doing that thing. You know, if you're, if you're looking to become great at something, you got to spend time with those who are greats, man. So as it pertains to mentors, for our young people, it's a little trickier because a lot of them, right, and I know you're familiar with Carol Dweck's work on mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our young people have a fixed mindset. They have a fixed mindset, and for a lot of different factors. Part of it is the education system. Part of it is some of our families and how we're rearing some of our children, in my opinion. But a lot of our young people have fixed mindsets, meaning that they think that ability and talent is static and that it can't be developed, as opposed to growth mindset means that every skill and ability is something to just be grown and developed. So I bring that up in the context of, like, when you have young people who have somewhat been socialized to think that, they're smart, and then if they're not as good at something, that's a knock on their intelligence. So, again, in my opinion, like, collectively, we've got to wrap our arms around young people, and again, put them in positions where they can fail safely. And I think you sort of spoke to it a little while ago, when you talked about, some of our young people, right? It's not like a perception. For a lot of our young people, their backs are against the wall. And every day, right, they're navigating minefields. And if they take one false step, their leg is getting blown off, like, literally. So, as adults, and this is a challenge that I give to folks when I'm out in the community all the time, like, we got to stop this notion of other people's children. I think that's one of the most, just detrimental, devastating thoughts that a lot of us perpetuate on a day-to-day basis, right? Like, the saying isn't my children are the future or your children are the future. The saying is our collective, our children are the future. And, we gotta begin to wrap our arms around all of our kids, because, another one of those old sayings is that, whatever we create, we end up having to confront. And, a lot of times, again, we're just kind of thinking my own house. Yeah, absolutely. You have to take care of your house first, right? But if you're not speaking life over every young person that you come in contact with, because a lot of times we get in our feelings.
This is good.
We're like, oh, these young people are so rough. And we get scared of our young people. But people of faith know that faith and fear can't coexist at the same time. You can't can't love but be scared at the same time, right? Because we know, right, that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's fear. So I can't love you and be scared of you. And a lot of us, we are scared to death of our youngins. We're scared to death. And then we wonder why they don't respect us. We wonder why they don't allow us to lead. They wonder why they look at us with like we might have ulterior motives. That's because a lot of us do. So, this notion of other people's children, man, is detrimental. And again, I don't care if they're your kids, bro, if they're my kids, or if I don't have any kids at all. You got to get to the point where we're loving on them all just the same, man, because again, we create the environment. Anything that we see wrong with this generation right now, it's our fault. Yeah. And that's what leadership is. It's not, I have this line in my bio, right? Is that when we start blaming children, that means we ran out of answers. Man, that's good. When that happens, we've reached the end of our leadership capability, and it's time to pack that thing up. Yeah. Listen, man, before time gets away from us and we get to the end of our conversation, unpack the Maryland Mentor Initiative. I'm interested kind of in the backstory of how you got to be the director of this initiative, and also what's the scope and what's the mission of this organization? Yeah, bro. Great question. Great question. So, after I left Target, I launched my training and development organization where we cross paths, doing very, very similar work, man. And again, I didn't say this initially, man, but I'm super proud of all the work that you're doing. My brother, I'm inspired, man. I see you moving, making tremendous moves on Instagram and on Facebook, brother. I'm inspired by this new podcast, and I thank you for the invitation, man, to be able to just share some of our experiences with each other, man. So again, a lot of love and admiration for you, my brother.
Yeah, man, from as one male to another, man, just hearing the affirmation from another male is a big thing, man. And I appreciate it. And man, I'm tracking what you're doing as well. And it's good to see another young person that's following this passion to pour into the next generation.
And without question. Again, if we don't do it, who's going to do it, bro?
Yeah. Yeah.
But long story short, after I left Target, I finished writing my book, my first book, Millionaire Manners.
Mm-hmm. And we'll put that link in the show notes, folks, so that you can order those copies.
So after I finished writing that, I launched Millionaire Manners Academy, which was, again, program and leadership training for young men of color, family engagement work, especially with fathers, man, which was some of my favorite work. As well as professional development and leadership training for those youth workers and educators. So it's, long story short, bro, I think it's been a consistent theme somewhat throughout what we've been chatting about during our time together today, but leading with your brand. I was just actually doing a marketing and branding workshop just a couple of days ago in DC. And one of the number one lessons, as a matter of fact, I opened up with 2 lessons. 2 thoughts that if they didn't remember anything else from our time together, I gave them these 2 thoughts. And this is to answer your question, like, how did I end up as executive director for this nonprofit organization? But I told them, thought number 1 is that you are your brand at all times.
Yeah.
You are, I'm going to say that again for all our listeners. You are your brand at all times. And I don't care if you actually own, I happen to own SadiqAli.com. Go and visit, check it out.
Yeah.
But even if you don't own a URL, you are you.com at all times. And if folks
That's good.
want to get a feeling or a vibe of what your brand is, what you have to offer, all they need to do is look at you and or have a 30-second conversation to be able to figure out what your orientation is. So you are your brand at all times. Number 2, we've already talked about it. Your customer service is your number 1 branding and marketing opportunity. Chick-fil-A food is great, but it's their service that is exemplary.
Hands down,
bro. That's why we go to Chick-fil-A, because you know it's not going to be no drama.
Yeah.
If they mess up your order, you're getting a free milkshake. Not attitude. Not a cold side of attitude. You're getting a cold milkshake. That's why folks go back. So, as it pertains, man, to how I wound up in this position, I was essentially asked to run the organization as a result of a lot of the service and a lot of the quality of the work that I was doing via Millionaire Manners Academy, having traveled a decent amount, man, at lots of different conferences, and I had a decent amount of clients that I was working with. I was presented with a really, really cool opportunity to assist and support in the increase of quality and quantity of mentoring relationships across the state of Maryland. So I lead the organization, as you already named it, Maryland Mentor, is an affiliate of the National Mentoring Partnership. So we're an affiliate of the National Mentoring Partnership. And again, my work basically entails the coaching of the 200 and some odd different mentoring programs and organizations across the state. So it's more leadership, it's more development of people. And ultimately, we're developing these organizations so they can further develop the end user of all of our efforts. And that is the young person at the end of this equation. How do we support those programs to do more of what they already are doing to support our young people in an even better fashion?
When you gave the description, part of your job description as coaching and mentoring those 200 plus individuals that lead these programs across the state, man, my mind instantly went to Target. Like I went straight to Target because I saw it. I saw the connection, and it shows how, not despising small beginnings and how everything builds on each other. Man, we've had an incredible conversation. Thank you for your time. Let's do shameless plugs, man. Just give us all your URLs. Where can we get the book? Where can we get the training? If we want you to come and speak, just give it to us.
Dope, man. So some of my favorite topics to present on are absolutely leadership and orientation, man. But, working with young men of color, cultural proficiency is one of my favorites. Also around connecting, just connecting better. There's a workshop that I do called 7 Habits of Highly Connected People, man. It's one of my most requested workshops. But overall, I'm a lover of people, developer of people, and I try to do my best in everything that I do. I want, as we talk about branding and quality, I want my name to represent quality, and I want that to precede me wherever I go, man. But for all information, inquiries, you guys feel free to hit me on social media at the Sadiq Ali Show or SadiqAli.com or Millionaire Manners. I think it's at Millionaire Manners or Millionaire-Manners.com. There you can find my books, my work, and a lot of those pieces as well. Man, I look forward to connecting with everyone.
Yes, we will put all of that information in the show notes so you can check out Mr. Ali and his work, man, making impact in the lives of thousands. It's going to be millions impact that's felt around the world. We thank you for your time, and we wish you all the best. As you say, peace and blessings on your work, bro.
Peace and blessings to you too, bro.
That's some great stuff from Sadiq Ali, the executive director of the Maryland Mentor Program. I need you to check him out. I put all of his stuff in the show notes because I want to make sure that you connect with him. He's a great person to bring to your organization to talk about the topics he mentioned in our interview. Okay, we want to make sure that you're connected to our leaders list. Hop over to prcquinn.com, hit the Join My Leaders List tab so you can get all the information about upcoming projects and resources, because we want to help you to continue to grow as a leader. That's all I got for this episode. So until next time, take care and God bless.